So let's talk about spray tanning and breastfeeding. I recently did a pool day and quite last minute I decided to get a spray tan. I wanted to look my best. It's like my first time doing like a girls trip in a pool day since the baby was born. And I just wanted to go all out. And I just love the way a spray tan looks. I still have it right now. You can see. Feel great. Fully confident. But what I was thinking, literally while I was sitting in the waiting room of the spray tan facility, is it safe to get a spray tan when you're breastfeeding? Because essentially it is chemicals that will be going where your baby eats. So after extensive Googling for a fervent 45 seconds before I went into the spray tanning place and then hours afterwards because I have anxiety, here is what I found. There's essentially three concerns that people have when they're breastfeeding and they want to get a spray tan. So through this quote unquote research, what I found is that there's three major concerns that come up for women when they want to get a spray tan and also continue to breastfeed their baby. In order of, I suppose, risk or dangerousness, going from most to least, is one, women are concerned that the chemical will get directly into the baby's mouth through breastfeeding. The second is that they're concerned that the chemical will leach into their milk somehow, and that will also affect the baby by going internally. Then the third is the concern that your tan might actually transfer to the baby if you're holding them up against freshly sprayed skin. Before we address these top three concerns, a little background on spray tanning. That most reassuringly, the very first thing that popped up was the Leche League website that said spray tans are not a concern. The biggest thing is you don't want to transfer it to the baby, and it's safe to breastfeed once the tan is dry, and that the main ingredient is, won't really penetrate the skin. It was very succinct. But then I found the Leche League.ca, so the Canadian Leche League website, and it went a little bit more in depth and covered a little bit more of the potential risks. And so I will link that reference below because it is just a little more well-rounded. So before we address these top three concerns, a little background on spray tanning that I also learned is that the main ingredient in spray tans is typically DHA, which is dihydroxyacetone, and it is not known to be able to penetrate deeper than the skin. Some self-tanners use erythrulose, which is also not known to penetrate through the skin. It's a type of sugar. So both of these chemicals just basically interact with your dead skin cells to produce melanin to make you have that browns or brawn color. Let's address the first concern. So is the chemical actually going to get directly into my baby's mouth? If you think of this logically, yes, if you get a spray tan and then freshly come out of it and put your baby on the boob, they're going to get some of the chemical in their mouth. And while dihydroxyacetone, DHA, is approved for use externally, it is not recommended to be used internally. And so you do risk exposing your baby to that internally. So you want to avoid that. And I think that that's pretty rational, right? There's a few different ways to prevent that issue where you're getting the chemical directly into the baby's mouth. Some women said that they would use breast pads. So we have breast pads. Once they get to that area of your body, you can ask the technician to hold these there for you. You don't want to hold them yourself because then your arms are going to get sprayed in a weird way. And if you've ever gotten a spray tan before, they have you pose in all different positions to get the right angles and the right evenness. So you don't want to mess that up. But you could ask the technician to just hold it there while they're spraying with the other hand. Some women went so far as to use the hydrogel gel pads that you can use for when you're trying to heal your nipples from being cracked or irritated, but they stick on there. You can actually use those as like a more gentle kind of pasty, and then even hold these over that. So then straight up, you're not even getting the chemical in that area. If you don't own breast pads and you don't want to buy them for this occasion, you could always use pasties or like the stick-on chicken cutlet boob bras, or a strapless bra, or a bikini top. But just pick something that's either black or that you don't care about because it'll likely stain from the tan. So those are options to cover up that area completely. So that's kind of the more extreme end of, I do not want this chemical to touch my nipples at all. On the other end of the spectrum, and the route I chose to go, because I didn't have these with me at the time, of course, because I was looking this up at the last second, basically in the parking lot in the waiting room, is you can go ahead and get your spray tan and then wash it off ASAP afterwards. So the first thing with that is I also use the barrier cream that they offer there, which is the cream that you use to prevent the tan from taking, preventing the chemical to settle in certain areas. Typically, it's the cuticles in the nails, the fingernails, the toenails, and then your palms and the sides of your hands. You'll apply it there just so that it doesn't take to those places. And so I went that route to prevent the chemical from sinking in fully. I'm positive some got through because the barrier cream is not fail safe. And then immediately afterwards, like right when she left the room, the tech left the room, I wiped the area on and around my nipples with the baby wipes that they had in the room just to get it off my body ASAP. And then as soon as I got home, I washed them again with like warm soapy water using a pH balance unscented cleanser, to just make sure that that area was completely clean. So that's always a backup plan if you don't have anything with you physically to cover that area. And then I felt, perfectly safe breastfeeding the baby after that. The La Leche League Canada website was a little more in depth with the risks, and they do recommend that if you feel that your baby was exposed to spray tanning products internally, they do recommend calling a poison control center. They also said that if you wash the chemicals off your body, there's no guarantee that you're removing 100% of them, depending how long they've been on your body. So I felt pretty good about my methods since I immediately wiped my breast off after the tan, and then you really scrubbed them when I got home, and I felt good about that plan. It's recommended to let it sit for 6 to 8 hours before you shower or wash an area, and then you wait 6 to 8 hours with the bronzer and everything on you, and you're waiting for it to dry, and then you shower. Just know that there might still be a little bit of residue there. Is that a risk? Is that a risk that I would be willing to take? Yes, I feel like I'd be washing off enough of it at that point to still feed the baby safely, but pumping is your friend, even when it's not. So that's always an option you have if you're worried about those chemicals getting to your baby, if you want to pump for a few hours up to a few days after the tan. So that's all about preventing exposure through the baby's mouth directly. Okay, that's like the biggest thing. The second thing that came up in my Google searches about this, my very academic Google searches, was your breast milk getting contaminated. So like I mentioned, DHA cannot penetrate through the skin. So there's no worry about your milk getting contaminated in that way. And that's pretty much where the La Leche League, the United States, La Leche League website left it. But on the Canadian website, they did mention that you can get DHA internally by having contact with your mucous membranes or inhaling it during your spray tan. And so they actually said for that reason, spray tans are not recommended. By that same token, they did say if you insist on getting a spray tan, a mask may help to prevent excess inhalation of the chemical. I would recommend wearing a mask for the entire spray just to prevent yourself from breathing it in. And then if you do decide to get your face sprayed, you could remove it. If you're really concerned about that contact with your mucous membranes, like your eyes, your nose, your mouth, you could forego having the spray on your face at all and instead just opting to use makeup, bronzer, whatever to make it match the rest of your body. And then last but definitely not least is accidentally transferring the DHA to your baby and giving them a little very uneven baby tan. A lot of moms online recommended wearing long sleeves for you and the baby to prevent skin-to-skin contact where you might transfer that bronzer or chemical to them. But of course, and this is something I would have forgotten had I not seen all these posts online about it, you need to be careful of their face, where their face touches your breast, because even if you wash your nipple, their face, they're all over. They're grabbing you, they're rubbing their face around, especially I have a 7-month-old, she's like doing everything but eating when she's down there sometimes. To prevent that, again, like I said, I washed that area, but when I first got home from the spray tan, I put my pumping bra on because I was actually going to pump just to prevent any contact with the baby. But then I realized, when I put my pumping bra on, the only thing that's exposed essentially is my nipple and the skin around it that I had just cleaned really well. And so I decided to just breastfeed her, and I felt really good about that decision. So a little hack I came up with is you could just breastfeed through a pumping bra basically, and that'll prevent any direct contact in that area. And then for the rest of your body, wearing long sleeves for you and baby to prevent transfer to their body. Lastly, if you want to know a little more about the ingredients in spray tan or self tanner, I found a really great article on the Beauty by Earth website. That's actually my favorite brand of self tanner, like one that I apply myself, and they have a really extensive article on like the top 7 worst ingredients that can be found in there. And so you can always look up the salon you use, and typically on their website it's going to tell you what brand they used. You could also ask them. And then I went to Natura and they use, I think it's called Norval, and then I looked up Norval on Amazon and I was able to see an ingredients list there. And thankfully, the only concerning one that was on the Beauty by Earth website is a perfume or a fragrance. And so I typically try to avoid any kind of fragrance or fake scents on me or the baby, definitely. So to recap, or if you're just skipping to the end of this video because you're not a super fan of my banter and my rambling, the number one thing is you want to prevent that transfer of the chemical directly to the baby's mouth. So you can do that by either washing it off immediately after the spray tan, or by preventing it from touching that area during the spray tan at all by using some kind of barrier like breast pads, pasties, a strapless bra, something like that. You also don't have to worry about it getting into your breast milk, as long as you do your best to prevent yourself from inhaling it or letting it come in contact with any of your mucous membranes, so directly on your face. You could always forego them actually spraying your face, or requesting a mask while you're getting sprayed. And last but not least, preventing that transfer to the baby by covering yourself up and covering them up as best as possible during breastfeeding, so they're not coming in contact with that tan and giving themselves a little crazy tan. You could also consider breastfeeding through your pumping bra, so they're only coming in contact with the area that they need to. And then, of course, wearing long sleeves on yourself and them to prevent the rest of their body from coming in contact. So I hope this helped answer some questions for anyone out there wondering, can I get a spray tan when I'm breastfeeding? Yes, you can. There is like anything with breastfeeding, could be a small risk involved, but it's up to you to decide if it's a risk you're willing to take. The safest option is to just not get a spray tan, but if it makes you feel great and it lifts your mood and it gets you out of the house, then my verdict is I'm all for it, especially if you take the appropriate precautions.